Okay, in this video, we're going to look at how to solve a word problem that requires ratio, knowledge, and skill. We have a challenge or a question here. It says, the gardener at the castle grounds sows 3 roses for every 2 tulips. If he sowed 140 flowers altogether, how many tulips did he sow? Now, to guide us through the solving of this challenge, I've put together a steps to success. The first step to success says highlight the key information. So, quite ironically, I am going to underline that step and I'm going to go back now and actually start to highlight the key information in the words or the sentences that we have been provided with. The gardener at the castle grounds sows 3 roses for every 2 tulips. I think it's quite important to understand there's 3 roses and then for every 2 tulips. So what I should be starting to see or notice is there's a ratio here. There's a comparison. If he sowed 140 flowers altogether, how many tulips did he sow? So I think the 140 flowers is the altogether or the total. That's important. And the last important piece of information, as far as I'm concerned, is how many tulips did he sow? So how many tulips? No, I've successfully completed step one. What does step two ask me to do? Step two says make a word ratio. So that's step two. So I'm going to jump back to my question. I'm going to make a word ratio. Now, in this case, what is it that we're comparing? Well, if I'm paying attention, I should know that we're comparing roses and tulips. So I'm actually going to assign some words to the comparison. The comparison is roses to tulips. So now I've completed step two effectively. What is step three? Step three in this case is assign number values to the ratios. Okay. How can I now give a number representation of the amount of roses in comparison to the tulips? Well, if I read again that he sows 3 roses for every 2 tulips, I should be able to determine that I can write that as a number ratio of 3:2. My next step asks me to convert the ratios to fractions. This takes a little bit of work. However, let's make it simple. In order to convert the ratios to fractions, I add the ratios. In this case, it would be 3 plus 2. They become the new denominator. 3 plus 2 is 5. So now I'm going to be looking at having 2 fractions over 5. I'm going to keep my ratio symbol, and I'm going to assign the numerators to be the same as the ratio. The roses will be 3/5. The tulips will become 2/5. My final step, really, essentially, in solving this challenge is make your number sentences and solve. So, in this particular question, it does tell us that there are 140 flowers altogether. I now know the fraction of tulips to be 2 over 5. So, I essentially have everything I need to go ahead and make my number sentence. So, my number sentence, or my NS in this case, should be find 2/5 of 140. That's the correct number sentence. All that remains to be done is to go ahead and do that. 2 over 5. Where we see of, we change to multiply. Where we see the number 140, we will represent that as a fraction over 1, like so. Again, when we multiply fractions, we remember that we multiply the numerator with the numerators and the denominators with the denominators. We also should remember that we can simplify it before we multiply. So in this case, I'm going to take that opportunity to do that. I'm going to simplify the 5 with the 140. 5 divides into 5 once. 5 divides into 140. Well, 20 times into 100 plus 8 altogether, that's 28 times. Now my last step in this case is to do my multiplication. 2 times 28 is 56. 1 times 1 is 1. So now I've worked out that there are indeed 56 tulips sowed. I will represent that as a full sentence answer. Gardener, move that up here. A gardener sowed 56 tulips. And that represents how we can solve a ratio question going through step by step. Hopefully, this helps you to understand what you can do to solve a ratio question. Use these techniques, strategies, and steps to success.